The video game industry moves fast, but we move faster. This is the Turbo Button Show with Darien and Jacob.
Hello and welcome to episode 20 of the Turbo Button Show. Forget this. January 20th.
It's almost like we planned that, huh?
Not really.
Oh.
Supposed to record this yesterday, but then you had some thing going on. It took a lot longer than I thought it would.
Don't tell them when we're recording.
And shut up, Jacob. But without further ado, let's just get right into the meat and potatoes because that's the best part of the meal.
Why don't you eat your vegetables? I made you some nice Brussels sprouts, man. You better eat it.
Brussels sprouts, dude.
Oh, well, now I have to cook
Before we backtrack off of things, let's talk about what Reggie Fils-Aimé said. He's the Nintendo of America man. That
the president of Nintendo of America. And
his body is Reggie.
One of the heads of Nintendo, though not the head of Nintendo.
But everybody likes him because he's better than the European guy. And
he's a likable dude.
He seems fun.
And he's quite large.
Yeah.
Something tells me he's just jacked. It's all that Wii Sports.
Yeah, I wouldn't fight him. He'd probably kill me by accident. And he'd be like, I'm sorry, dude.
He's like, I spend 3 hours a day doing Wii Fit.
Touching his toes. But nobody's touching his. He's touching his own. That's weird.
I think everything about that scenario was weird. So can we just move on? You were saying about Reggie.
He said that Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is going to be the last Nintendo-made Wii U game.
Ouch.
And basically the funny thing is for months and months, they were like, yeah, we're going to support the Wii U. We're going to support the Wii U. When the Switch comes out, we'll support the Wii U.
We're going to totally keep supporting the Wii U. Wink, wink.
To try to sell the extra stock that's in stores to get people to be like, I'll play it.
So Breath of the Wild will be the last Nintendo-made game on the Wii U. So in other words, the last game on the Wii U.
Yeah. I mean, it has a 3 gigabyte mandatory install.
The Wii U is a cool system. It had potential, but also it had a lot of flaws. But it's dead now. Let's move on.
I mean, this excites me a little bit, though, is because Nintendo said that they're going to keep servers running for the Wii U for a while, just so that people can keep playing their Mario Kart 8, their Splatoon.
While.
Yeah, probably.
Let's not forget how quickly they dropped the DS and the Wii.
Here, I imagine this. One day, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, we're going to shut down the servers for all these games, but we're going to add a mode to your Wii U that you can just hook them together with LAN cables if you have our Wii LAN adapters. That'd be weird, but he basically said that, basically making Nintendo look like they're lying through their asses. Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. Raise your hand if you saw this coming.
Nintendo won't fool us anymore.
No.
They never did.
Nintendo's right now saying, oh, don't worry, we're going to continue supporting the 3DS. What's your take on that?
I actually believe that.
I think
there's some titles that are still
in development
for 2018 still, and
I think we're going to see continuous support through 2017, but by the beginning of 2018, it's going to be a dead system.
But
That's
I look at the DS, and Nintendo was producing games well into the life of the 3DS. Their handhelds.
Not that many, because by the time games that came out after the 3DS launch, the only big ones I can think of, and I might even be wrong on this, would be Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 and Kirby Mass Attack.
We'll just have to wait and see, but I think Nintendo's going to hold on to the 3DS for a little while because, there's a huge install base. The Wii U didn't have that, so...
Yeah, I think we're going to see support through 2017 for sure.
I'm just going to say that the 3DS will probably have a trickle of titles until 2020. Just to be honest.
I disagree with that, but big time.
We'll wait and see who's right.
I think by January 2018, it'll be a dead system.
Whatever.
And you know these things. I'm right more often than not.
Okay.
All right, so you guys can hold us to our predictions on that.
So let's talk about support, but this time it's on Microsoft's side. I find this really funny, actually.
This is the most hilarious thing ever.
Okay.
So Microsoft owns Minecraft.
Yes, and Minecraft on their mobile version of Minecraft isn't supported on their phones anymore.
Windows phones do not support a Microsoft-owned game franchise. Oh, first of all, Windows phones are literally the punchline to every joke when you refer to smartphones.
I mean, if you think this is bad,
Or if you think this is bad, wait till you see a Windows phone. And I know some people like them, and for some uses, for like power users, they can actually be quite good. But the app support is so bad. And what makes it even worse is that now Microsoft is like, yeah, we don't even care anymore.
they're just like, this thing is a business phone. That's kind of how it is, though, because it has more of the Microsoft applications that are more of the office use stuff.
Right. And but most of that stuff you can also get on Android. You know, I can get Microsoft Word on my phone. No biggie.
But this stuff's like pre-built in, and it's
Right.
like super supported. Like, if I bought an Android
It's
phone,
baked into the operating system.
yeah, because if I bought a Android phone for like $150 and I tried to run Word on the thing, good luck.
The point is, though,
Explode.
you know, Microsoft is they're really bad at supporting things that are not doing very well. Look how quickly they dropped the Zune. Do you remember the Zune?
Actually, they supported that for a little bit longer.
Well, they
should have.
Some ways, but in other ways they didn't. Zune was actually better than the iPod. Like when they're competing head to head, it was cheaper. It had more gigs of download space. It had a bigger screen and better quality audio. But because Microsoft did such a terrible job with it, no one cared.
What is an iPod? Like, why do they have to have I in front of it? And it's not really a pod. And like the Zune, what the hell's a Zune? But it's
At least Windows Phone makes sense of a name. You know,
Yeah.
It's Windows on a phone.
it's basically Windows 10 mobile.
Yeah, and you know the operating system ran all right, but I think we're gonna within the next year or two see the end of it.
Yeah, I don't see it getting much support for any longer.
I mean, they only hold like what 2%, if that, of the actual like market share of smartphones.
I mean, this is how I kind of gauge my smartphones and how well they're supported is I look at the prepaid and I look at a lot of the different companies that you can buy phones through. So I go through Straight Talk. You can't not get a Windows phone through it. That I've looked. I have actually looked for it because I was curious. Other service providers in our area don't really have good, like, yeah, you can buy a Windows phone. No, you just can't get your hands on one.
Honestly, unless you have a super specific use that you need a Windows phone for, why would you go with one?
Right. You can't play games. I mean, I don't really use my phone for games,
But I think Microsoft is finally rolling around to realizing that, and you know, this is kind of a good thing. Instead of making sure their Minecraft with its new updates is available on 3 different platforms, with one of them there's probably like 10 people who actually care.
yeah, we have some like 7-year-old kid with a Windows phone, and he's like, "Mom, my friends can play these games. I can't play Minecraft anymore."
So I guess it's a positive thing, you know, they can move those resources to other areas, but I'm sure there wasn't much going into their, resource-wise by Mojang anyways.
Yeah, I think it was actually behind in the development. Like they were not releasing as many like updates to it as quickly. So
But it is just kind of a funny situation.
I know it's just like it's great.
All right, so what do we have next?
Well, we talked about the Nintendo Switch exclusively last week.
Yeah, and now we've got more details.
Now we've got the trickle of detail.
Darian wanted to share some cool stuff, and I'm like, you know what? I want to share some kind of negative stuff we've heard about it. So why don't you start with the positives,
Okay,
and then I'll take the negatives.
I'm gonna mix bag it. I'm not gonna take all the positives.
Oh, no.
But here's one big positive that we found out is that the Nintendo eShop is tied to the account, not the system, because the system is not region locked. So if you have a Nintendo account that's Japanese, you can essentially log into that account and download Japanese games, or if you have a European account, you can do the same. and North American, mix, repeat, rinse, repeat. You can get games from other regions without issue, but they don't recommend it because you might not get the full support for the game.
They don't recommend it.
But I actually kind of
No, but
see that
realistically,
because,
they're just worried about, people getting games earlier than they're supposed to and whatnot, so they have to say that.
but I've also seen it with the PlayStation storefront where I've tried to buy things off of it, and like you try to get on their servers and you can't because
Well, but most of the time, they're like 99% of the time, I have a Japanese PlayStation Network account. 99% of the time, I have no issues.
I have big issues whenever it has to do those checks, and it's like, oh, you need to do a DLC check. It's trying to check, and it's just like, okay, where's the server? And it takes a long time. So
I think your internet just sucks, man. Mine's fine.
I've had it through
Anyways,
different places.
And how many of those accounts can you have?
8.
8 per system.
Yep.
Wow. So you can have your account, your Japanese account, your European account, guest account. You still got half of your accounts left. That's all I could think of. One for your friend, one for your other friend.
Not your whole family.
Who cares about family? They're not important when it comes to video games. All right, what else do you have?
The Nintendo Switch won't have media function at launch.
Hey, I was going to share that, man. You're
Stealing your thunder. It's my thunder.
No kidding. So that's one of the more negative things. There are no streaming services that are going to be available at launch.
Yep.
You have no Netflix, no YouTube, no Twitch. Nintendo.
But it's not really Nintendo's fault, actually. It's the developers of it.
No. That's not true. I'm calling you out on that right now. Because there are plenty of brand new devices running brand new operating systems that out of the box have support for those systems. It's Nintendo saying, we're not ready to give out the code for this, so you can program your own apps. Hands down. No, I'm calling it. That's exactly what it is.
But other systems don't have media at launch.
Most of them do. Not everything, but the majority. I mean, you're not going to find everything at launch, but for Nintendo to say there is nothing, that's ridiculous.
It's not really Nintendo saying there's nothing. It's the company saying, yeah, we don't have it.
No, it's Nintendo, dude. And I don't think they care. I don't think Nintendo's never really realized how important streaming services are for them.
Try to watch Netflix or YouTube on a Wii, it crashes every 3 seconds.
And they've been pretty bad at, supporting those things and working with the developers of those applications.
Right.
Other companies aren't perfect. Looking at you, Sony. No Netflix on the PlayStation Vita TV. What the heck is wrong with you?
I know I have one. I'm like, I can play my PSP games on my TV, and that's basically all I use it for.
But we have some other interesting news.
How about the fact that the Switch supports a non-created format of memory yet? The 2 terabytes of micro SD storage.
You're kind of explaining it not the greatest, but yeah.
It doesn't exist yet.
So the way it works is it supports SDXC, which is the best format of SD cards. It has one SD card slot. You can put anything into it. And it's up to the program, not the card itself, to determine how big of a size that can get. Nintendo has future-proofed the Switch to allow for up to a 2 terabyte micro SD card, which currently those aren't available on the market. I believe there have been some that have been made as prototypes that hit 2 terabytes, but we do have 512 gig ones available on the market, and there are some prototype ones shown off that have been 1 terabyte.
There's like a regular size SD card that was released that was 1 terabyte, and it was $800 when it came out. Mm-hmm. So
we'll see how that plays out in the next couple years. But right now, sticking with a 64 gig or 128 gig is probably your best bet.
I'm going with the 256. It's good enough.
Something else that's interesting that kind of is a negative. The Switch has gotten some pretty harsh criticism for only having 32 gigs of internal storage.
Yeah.
Darien keeps saying that's not an issue. Yes.
32 gigs of internal storage? Not really. If you don't plan on downloading your games all the time, it should last you a good deal of time.
Well, I kind of disagree. So first of all, only about 27 gigs of the 32 will actually be accessible as storage. That's kind of typical.
Oh, well.
You know, you have to have the operating system and your built-in applications and whatnot. So you've got 27 gigs to work with. And one of the big benefits, say, the 3DS had, or even things like the PSP, well, not the PSP, that's actually not correct, the Game Boy Advance, things like that, cartridge-based systems, is you could save your games using battery backups on the cartridge themselves. You cannot do that with the Switch. The cartridges or the cards you use for the Switch are all read-only.
The Vita was the same.
Yeah, the Vita was, and it hurt the Vita as well, but I think it's going to hurt the Switch more as games are going into HD and, having quite large save.
Actually, save files are only going to be megabytes large.
We'll see what happens.
The largest PS4 game saves are like 8 megabytes.
No, they get quite a lot bigger than that.
I have a PS4, Jacob.
It doesn't matter, Darien. What the heck is wrong with you? Any space taken up that could be used for something else and doesn't have to be on the internal memory is a good thing right now. 32 gigs is pitiful.
Okay, think about this. Let's just think a save file is 8 megabytes.
Okay, and I have 10 games. Okay,
That's
80.
megabytes.
Plus, oh, look, I have DLC for 3 of those games. 50 megabytes apiece only, and that's really small. Oh, look, there's a whole bunch more space. Oh, what? There are updates for all 10 of those games, and they consist, some of them, of gigabytes worth of updates. Oh, and don't forget the installs. That 32 gigs will not last anyone long. And anything Nintendo could do to save people a little bit of space, they should be doing, and they're not. And I don't think Nintendo cares. They keep saying, oh, don't worry, you've got that SD card slot. But most consumers aren't me or you and going out and buying 100-plus gigabyte SD cards. If Nintendo's able to convince them to go out and get an SD card, they're going to go, oh, here's an 8-gig SD card.
It's like the biggest oh well kind of thing. Like the technology in these cartridges, like I've been noticing later on with 3DS games, I have a couple 3DS games that they do not save on the cartridge. They save on the SD card of the 3DS because the save file is too large for the save spot that's built into the cartridge.
Right, that happens on occasion.
So it's kind of future-proofing because what if the cartridges are only designed to have, let's say, 6 megabytes of save data worth in them? So instead of actually building in there
But there's literally no option. That's the problem.
I just see it as a big oh well. Maybe a couple of those gigabytes that were like cut off. Maybe there's like some kind of like save thing in there. I don't even know.
I think after launch, we're going to see a lot of people complaining about the Switch's storage space.
But when don't people complain though? When don't people complain?
I honestly think it's one of the biggest flaws of the system. They could have easily, for just pennies more, increased it to say 64 gigs, or not going as far as throwing in 500 gigs of flash storage. Though honestly, it's been done.
Flash storage is huge.
No,
it's expensive.
You want an example? NVIDIA, they offer their Shield console. Not that big, right?
Yeah.
You can get a 16 gigabyte model for $200, or for $100 more, a 500 gig variant. No size increase, no power increase. It's just $100 more, but for a much more usable system. So Nintendo could have gone certainly with more than 32. I'm not saying do that, what I just said, that NVIDIA's done in the past, but 32 is as bare bones as they could have put in the thing.
We'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Well, that's all we really have to say, isn't it?
Well, kind of, yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys think I'm kind of wrong about the Switch,
he's very wrong.
Sucking. I mean, there's some great things on it, but Nintendo is being Nintendo again.
You haven't even touched one yet.
Some
You're
really
complaining.
It doesn't matter. There are some pretty glaring flaws with this system, even though I think it's going to be great. But if you guys disagree with me, let me know in the comments below. If you agree with me, let me know in the comments below. Like this video, yes?
Yeah.
And don't forget to subscribe to Gaming Buzz.
Yep. Click that bell. You'll get notified of everything, including future Turbo Button updates and Turbo Button shows, because those are the best.
Oh, is that so?
And unboxings.
All right, well, goodbye.
See you guys later.
New episodes and other content can be found on TurboButtonShow.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.